cuss or anything, say anything too.
Well, I don't think we got any FEC problems, but
Yeah,
we still run a clean ship.
I have notes up everywhere because Hayes gets off the bus at like 2:50.
Ah,
I forgot my husband was going to be home to, make sure he doesn't run in here and yell. So I have notes up because he's 9. So, and believe it or not, Bobby, he talks a lot. Can you believe that?
I was for what his background is, how he has to just to get in through a word through his sister. How old is she now?
13.
Oh my Lord, see?
Going into high school next year.
Gosh. Yeah, mine's going to be a senior. It just marches on.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, I know. Well, she's made it where she'll probably be home at least another year. So
Well, yeah.
we have a little more time before separation anxiety will kick in.
Well, that's good. I know that's hard.
Yes, it is. I will miss her.
mine will be 6 months old in a couple of weeks. So we're at a different stage.
You are. I don't see any bags there, so you're doing pretty well then.
Lots and lots of makeup.
Yeah. Well, Elliot started sleeping through the night at like something early, like 10 days old, and we bragged about it. And then at 4 months old, we were cursed until she was 5. So
oh my gosh,
don't brag about it if they sleep well.
No, we're humble. We try to beg. We spent the last week with him, not all of a sudden, because he started at 4 months old, sleeping through the night. We're working hard, trying to make that happen. And for about a month, and then all of a sudden didn't want to do it anymore. So it's all that, try to figure out what it is, and because they can't tell you.
No,
they can't tell you. All right, so clicky, we got live on the YouTubes, we got recording here, we got live on Instagram, which means we get to say hello to Rob Carver, who always checks in on us.
I know Rob.
You know Rob? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been fun because we've been going more live as we get to use the Zoom. We get to do it, but we're making such good connections with Go Tennis and with the podcast, and we've been able to get to know so many people and connect in this same way. And tennis being the starting point, whether you're a tennis player or, in your case, a marketer, somebody actually that's kind of selling the sport.
Right.
I don't know if that's the right phrase. Would you say you're selling the sport? How would you describe what you do for tennis?
Yeah, I would say promoting it. I mean, I'm one of those who want to promote tennis as a sport and get it above some of the sports that do better right now. With the whole Netflix show that's helping right now, and just for Atlanta for the tournament, promoting it obviously locally, but US internationally as well. But yeah, I would use the word personally and professionally, just a big fan of trying to see what more we can do to get tennis out there,
Yeah, and you're with Chatterhouse Communications, right? So that's what you call yourself, and that means Chatterhouse Communications is tennis promotion, or it's much more than that, and tennis is just one of the things you do. And I'll do the mention of saying, okay, we're talking with Becky Robinson of Chatterhouse Communications. Right. And I got to get better with my radio timing, where I say, oh, and we're talking with, right? Who is it? The guy who does the Talking Southern, USTA Southern one. That guy's a former radio. Who's the guy? Come on, who is he? The podcast that does the Southern, Talking Southern, USTA.
Sam Crenshaw?
Thank you, Crenshaw. Yeah.
Sam, yeah.
He's got that really great system where in the middle of a sentence, and we're talking with Becky Robinson at Chatterhouse Communications, and then he just keeps going. He just kind of throws it in every once in a while. It's that old school radio announcement.
Yeah.
Don't have to do with a podcast, but so you're a tennis promoter, but that isn't all that Chatterhouse Communication does, or is it just tennis all day, all the time?
Correct. It's a big piece of it, but not just tennis. I mean, I started the company in 2012 to help startups, like new to market companies, and got into the tennis world around 2017 because I was doing a lot of IT promotion, which is not super exciting. And I'm like, why can't I start promoting something that I love playing, love watching, would love to see it, see what I can do to help. So Chatterhouse we've done a stand-up paddleboard company that makes boards. We've done solar farms. We've done state government. We've done makeup apps, kind of all over the board. And a big chunk of my work has come from my tennis colleagues and friends, honestly. It's our tennis community, you know, kind of supports each other and kind of says, hey, she does this and blah, blah, blah. And that's where I've gotten a lot of my business.
And we appreciate that because that's one of our tenants, so to speak. We should just write that down as a tenant, Bobby. First tenant, we are not experts at everything. So go find the expert at the thing you need done,
right?
And bring them on board. And we say, hey, what would you want from us to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do, and this is what we want to get going and what we want to have happen. So if we have somebody like you that is an expert in what you do from a promoting tennis point of view, I like Bobby's quote, and I've probably been quoting it too much recently, which is we often spend too much time promoting a player or players rather than promoting the sport itself. I would guess as a tennis promoter, as you said, you mentioned the sport, but you don't mention a player specifically. It's how do we grow the sport? How do we make it better? And in tennis, how do you know Bobby? Did you meet through the Atlanta Open? Because you work with the Dallas Open and the Atlanta Open, if I have that right. And somehow that gets you to knowing Bobby Schindler?
So I played tennis out of Windermere. So he's been stuck with me in drills before, and my team. I captain a team now out of Windermere. So yeah, unfortunately, he knows me on the court and off professionally as well.
It is part of our Tuesday night experience at Windermere. We block it off. We don't have anybody remotely close to us.
Yes.
So they do not listen to our conversations. And Tuesday night is everybody. That's our fun night. That's when all our ADD comes rampantly obvious. It
does. And that definitely does not need to be recorded or some of the things yelled out.
But I mean, as Windermere is for such a community, we have some people very involved in the tennis community within our community. So it does help because we have some good networking opportunities just amongst ourselves. And of course, we've expanded it and we try to help everybody and introduce. So where are we sitting in Cincinnati?
Close.
Close?
Yes.
Can we get an exclusive when you get really close?
Yeah, I'll do my best. Bobby seems to know everyone as well. I mean, like Sam just hooked me up at the Miami Open and the Cadillac box, which was great. I enjoyed that. Sam's awesome and a great partner in Atlanta as well with Cadillac. So yeah, it's crazy how you run into people. A girl on my tennis team works for T2 tennis, you know, in the administrative side. So it's, you know, a lot of people in the industry in Atlanta.
And hopefully we'll get Joel on here pretty soon, the founder of T2, because in all my years of tennis in Atlanta, I always say that he's probably the only person I could think outside of USTA and ALTA that have had a lasting impact and been successful. There's been a lot of ideas, but T2 has been the most, not even remotely close, the most triumphant of the cottage industries that have grown out of the fun and the numbers of Atlanta tennis players.
Right. Absolutely. It's a great organization of that flexibility to play. And I was even telling Elliot, maybe she should try it out.
And, you know, our friend who was in Cincinnati is now going to New York. So I don't know how much interest you might have in taking a next step, but so there's.
Oh, yes, that's nice.
Yeah, so he's going. I don't know, you know, what level, but you know, that's where his next step is. So you know, like I said, we were hoping to go to Cincinnati, so we want you there because we'd like to do a little trip. That's close enough, and historically, every year it gets the best ratings from the players of a tournament that they enjoy being at. So. Figured Cincinnati's a cool little town. It's easily accessible, not too far. You can fly, you can drive. So yeah, we're thinking about road tripping up there.
Yeah, it's great. And just being in Miami was a week ago. Just great to see a different tournament and how they do things and, you know, experience it as a fan. Because then you put on your marketing hat as well while you're enjoying it.
Well, I know when I went to grad school, we did something for, God, was it Hershey, I think, with NASCAR. And it was such an experience. I was like, well, if I had to do it over again, I'd certainly go product side because the product gets treated like, you know, gold, where the event organizers that's your your stage is that however long the event is. So there's a lot of pressure while you're there, where I had the privilege of going up to Charleston a few years ago with Sam and Cadillac and get treated like a king, be in the box, all the best features of the tournament. So that is a nice side to experience as well. And from your perspective, I'm sure it opens up a different viewpoint of the way to approach a tournament.
Yes, very different experience as a staff member, because I can tell you my family and friends check on me during the tournament, because it is like, maybe I get 4 hours of sleep some nights. I think one year I lost 9 pounds during the tournament because it's just nonstop, so much to do. And in Atlanta, you know, we're outdoors, so we have rain delays. Sometimes we're playing matches until 1 a.m. and people stay. It's great, but it's a lot of work. It's not shipping champagne like a a fan, right? It's just
right. Wasn't what we did in Charleston is what we do down here. Yes, it's a little different.
Right. A lot of interns that are just love the sport and want to help and, you know, come work. And I get a lot of good work out of some interns every year, so I appreciate that help.
So this is the first year you went to Dallas?
Yeah, second. Yeah.
Oh, second. Okay.
Yeah.
How long do you stay there when you're on site for the tournament?
I think this year was 12 days. We had a first women's EXO there. We had Sloan and Madison, and we had a little bit of John Isner did his charity event kind of the night before everything. So I kind of need to get in, and then we do like a Crits in the courts with media before it starts. So I have to get there early. And then obviously our finals are usually kind of late, like 5 o'clock. Then I go home the next day. So yeah, 12 days, but Dallas is a great city. They love tennis there. It sells out really quickly. It's indoor. They just are a very engaged fan base and just love tennis there. So it's a fun tournament. It's easy.
Is it a T-bar?
T-bar, no, but there's a supporter. It's at SMU.
Oh, you said it out loud.
Yeah.
That's my rival. I mean, you know,
Oh,
TCU and SMU, that's Georgia, Florida right there. You know, that's the battle for the Metroplex.
So you probably know Grant Chan, who's like the man who knows everybody.
Well, the funny part about T-Bar is, even though it's in Dallas, it is a very TCU-oriented club. I mean, because Tut Bartson, our old coach, had a big influence on the club. So you see Tut all over the place. So even though you're in Dallas, you feel like you're close to Fort Worth. So, but yeah. And SMU has had some good players. Richie Renneberg did all right, and he was top 10 in the world. He's an SMU guy. And who am I? Rodney Harmon? Was Rodney?
Not sure.
I'm trying to think. There's another in my era that was at SMU that did pretty well as well. So yeah.
So Bobby doesn't go too far down a road of tennis players that most people have never heard of. you have to pay attention for a while for that. But Becky, you mentioned the difference. Oh, you didn't mention the difference. You mentioned something that I noticed is very different. You talk about the Dallas fan being engaged at the tournament. We're getting a lot of response here that the Atlanta area isn't engaged as much as we'd like it to be. How do we? Is one of the things that Go Tennis we want to help promote that idea of not only the professional tournament. We don't talk a lot of professional here. We just talk the business of Atlanta and the social side of how we do tennis here. But is there a big difference between people in Dallas and people in Atlanta as to why the tournaments are engaged with differently?
Well, the Atlanta crowd is engaged. They're great, and they're very knowledgeable of tennis. They love doubles. Like we say, Atlanta is the double city. It's what we call the largest recreational city in the world, perhaps US. We have the challenge of the heat, you know, and the timing of the year. It's right before school starts back, but we do still have great crowds. But you know, day sessions can be hard. You know, Atlanta Metro is so large, and we're down in Atlantic Station, getting the suburbs down there, but they still come out. But I think the greatest challenge is heat. But we still have great ticket sales every year. It's like a record from the year before. But those are the challenges.
And so how do we get the state to have a holiday?
Exactly.
National holiday where, you know, the banks can take off whenever Monday they want. But I'm thinking a state holiday for the schools to let all the kids go watch in the middle of the day for that 1 week. Just to fill it up and have the kids yelling and screaming and having a good time.
Yes.
I don't know if our schools will let us do that yet.
Well, so we're still out, but we partner with UPS and do STEM Day, which brings in a lot of kids during the day. So that has helped a lot. When we have our tennis camps and tennis groups bringing kids in, which has helped a lot. I've also helped with the Winston-Salem tournament, and it's unfortunate for them because they're back in school, so that limits their ball kids and volunteers and fan base, during the day sessions, and also being the tournament right before the US Open doesn't help. So it could be worse for us because to have the kids in school, a lot worse.
That's true. I guess we don't need a national holiday in the summer. It is a national holiday. So
Yeah.
more excuses to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we tried to get ALTA to take the weekend off when the senior tour was coming, and we were met with the resounding no. So I don't think we're going to get real far with schools. If ALTA said, no, we're playing, I don't care what time, we're going to play. I was like, oh, great. So, yeah.
Yeah, ALTA won't even give us Easter off. I'm dealing with that right now. So hard. As captaining, I haven't captained for a while, and I'm back, and I'm like, why did I agree to do this again? Because it's during, spring break and Easter matches.
It is a thankless job.
For sure.
Especially spring, like you said, we get it 2 weeks, and Gwinnett is, if they're not on the same spring break schedule, it could be a 3-week ordeal that we have to go through to rearrange a match. The spring season up here is very difficult.
It is painful. Yes. Just herding cats. Who's available? Who can play? Okay. Can you play one of 16 days? Keep this straight.
So how long do you guys, what did you say your time frame when you start to concentrate specifically on Atlanta?
So I work for Atlanta year round, which is kind of unusual for some tournaments because we do holiday packs starting in November and promote those in December. We start going on sale around March, April. We're actually going on sale next week for our premium week long. So that's our first ticket sale. So it starts now, but we're year round. I'm from, posting on social, following the players that typically play our tournament, how they're doing in Australia, Indian Wells, Miami, trying to keep our social alive and not just during the 9 days. So it's a lot of prep, a lot of preparation for that week because I do a lot of sponsor engagement and also do influencer marketing. So I work with, Instagram personalities to promote the tournament, to kind of reach that audience outside of tennis, try to get the fans out that just want to come have a drink and some good food and, some live sports that may not really play. So there's a lot of prep work for that we start really early, isn't now.
Well, that's great. I mean, because I've been a strong proponent of that. Even again, going back to our senior tour days, I was like, guys, you can't come in here a month and a half before the event and think this is going to be successful. It just, even back in the day when we had the old AT&T, when it was in, the end of March or April, we always had weather issues. Even then, it was a different weather issue, but it was our rainy season. So it was always difficult. And I always felt that we needed to stay more engaged throughout the year to get those people. As you said, the US Open, really, you go to the US Open the first week, it's the party. It's the corporate sponsorships. It's everybody coming for the event, where the second week translates more into the diehard tennis fans who are there to see the tennis and to see who wins. So it's tough to create that environment. And as Shaun said, that's something we're trying to do. We take tennis as the commonality. What are the things can we reach and bring people together to strengthen the commonality and to expand? Because as you said, a lot of the reputation of Atlanta is great participatory city, might not necessarily show up in the manner in which you would think. And I think a lot of the events are sold a lot of times. Oh, well, you got 80,000 tennis players. They're going to show up. Well, but this is a tier 1 city. There's a lot to do. And Alpharetta is growing, Cumming is growing, Milton there's more to do. It's getting more and more stuff to do. So it's just competition, and it's tough.
Yeah. And it's, the player field is always crucial. And, I didn't really understand the levels until I started working how 250, 500,000 level Grand Slam. So we're not really going to get a Nadal unless we get lucky. You have to pay some of them to show up, right? So it's still great talent, and sometimes someone will show up that you weren't expecting. That's great, get a wild card, that kind of stuff. So the player field is a big deal. Nick Kyrios, He loves Atlanta. He's great to us. He is really good to Atlanta. And, he can tend to back out of tournaments last minute. And so I tend to watch this guy I stalk him on social before a tournament because he goes down to the Bahamas and I'm like, does he look like he's good? Because it's crazy the level of ticket sales where there's like a handful and then not a lot of draw, right? For some, unfortunately, which frustrates me because when I sit there and watch live matches, I'm like, they're all amazing to watch, right? But there's certain personalities that just really sell well, and you're like,
Kyrios is one I would like to meet. I could hang out. Feel like I could hang out with that guy, or at least I'd want to. I don't know if he'd like me at all.
Yeah,
He's one of those guys that would bring me in because he's interesting. There's something, and maybe that's what Atlanta looks for, something more interesting rather than even a Nadal. I guess everybody shows up for Nadal either way, right?
Yeah, that sells obviously well. Nick sells well. He's so different, like you say. He's great with children as well, which might surprise some people, being single without children yet, but he's great with children and he's great for Atlanta and good to us by showing up. So we don't know what's going on this year with him and how long he'll be playing, and of course, John Isner, which people laugh and say we should rename the tournament the John Isner Open. But since he's won it 6 times, and we're always fortunate to have him there, and the local crowd really loves him as well. And we just get the great top American talent like Fritz and Tiafo and Brooksby and Riley and Paul. So it's great to see support your American players.
Well, now, and I think that'll help because we are kind of in an uptick right now with Chris Eubanks, with Shelton.
Chris.
Yeah. So, and we have Shelton, again, the kid who did well in Australia.
Ben Shelton. I keep telling my son, I said, all right, little Giovanni is like, you're 6 months old now. You're going to grow up to be 6'4", left-handed with a 2-handed backhand.
All right. Ben, so Atlanta was Ben's first ATP tournament, and he did well. It was great to kind of see him start, and now he's just really doing great.
Yeah, but I think so. That'll help. Obviously, the more it's tangible, and since he's got a backstory, having been in Atlanta, certainly will help. And what you're talking about too, is as far as the players showing up. Unfortunately, that's rampant in tennis at every event outside of the Grand Slams, because it's a grueling schedule. These guys they're less than a month away from Wimbledon, or from Wimbledon, and they're less than a month away from the U.S. Open. Mm-hmm. It's a tough time of the year, and then throw in 100 degrees, and that flight might get diverted. So you literally hold your breath and to make sure everybody shows up. You're hoping.
That's where you can get beat up on social, and you're like, man, we can't force them to show up, so don't be hating on us. Like, we didn't plan for them to back out. Like, we sold tickets and they backed out. Like, we can't foresee the future. We want everyone to show up, right?
But at 250, they don't have to. They have more leeway with a 250 than a higher level tournament. So it's kind of, and then you try to explain to people, well, we can move it. We should do this. You don't understand. All you bought is the date. Yeah. That's what you own. There's nothing else. That's what you have. You have this weekend. If you can't do it this week, you're not doing it here. So, the Dallas event originated in New York, and they sold it that week to Dallas, and did far better in Dallas, so that's great for the game. But there's not always a choice. We can't move it. That's the whole thing.
We can't. And people say, why would you do it in July? Like, we would prefer not to be outside in July, but we can't just say let's do it. And
nobody else wants July either.
Yeah. But we're part of the US Open series, so we're the first tournament that kicks it off. So that's why we're situated where we are. But it's great.
So what would you say your role in this situation? What does a social media manager do for a tennis tournament?
So for 250, it's definitely different with the different level tournaments where they have a lot of teams. But I oversee all of our channels, which for us is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And my obligations are not just, ticket promotion, which we do more on the paid media side and paid ads, but promoting the tournament. The players, special events, because we have STEM Day. We'll have sometimes Wind Down Wednesday with Kim Crawford, Umi Sushi, things like that. So promoting other events, pushing volunteer registration when we need people. Again, I said earlier, the sponsors promotion is a big piece. We do fun content with some of our sponsors like Kim Crawford. I work with influencers to really showcase the wine and leading up to the tournament. So the sponsor piece for Atlanta is a really large piece of what I do. Again, the influencer marketing, checking practice court schedules. Let's make sure we get Coco's arriving today, get her. I have a videographer, photographers, graphic designers to cover everything. Sometimes it's very spur of the moment. Isnerd was in his 500th tiebreaker, I believe, in Dallas. So we're like, oh, it's like a record. Go make me a graphic really quick. So as much as you prepare, there's a lot of on the spot, spontaneous stuff happening. And, really trying to push the community piece of it as well, as far as who we have on site. If we have tennis, we have ATF, we had them on site. We had kids come and interview a couple of our players, which was adorable. So it's kind of thinking of different ways to do content other than just so-and-so won, come back tomorrow, fun ways. My favorite part is I get to sit down with the players at the beginning of the week and try to do some fun recorded video content to just use throughout the week.
And you put those on the major platforms that you're distributing?
Yes. So because you probably know, I go for humor every time. So it's like, what's funny that hasn't been done by ATP Tour, which is they've done everything. So.
Oh, Shaun, we lost you. There you go.
Sorry. There's no such thing as done everything. If you haven't sat down with me and Bobby, you say, hey, we need something new. Just give us 5 minutes of talking. We'll come up with something new.
Oh, good. Perfect. Let's have a call next week because I need to go ahead and.
We can come up with something new. Or all of a sudden we'll realize we're not as awesome as we thought we were. We came up with 47 different things and they've done all of it.
Yeah, yes. It's insane. I start with like my brainstorming this long every year and like, what else can we do? Because you have a range of personalities with the players, right? You got some that are funny and some that don't really love doing it, but they are forced to go in that room with me. and try to do something funny or just read something for us.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that Bobby and I kind of think the same way. We're like, oh, you know what? I could come up with something, but then probably everybody thinks that too, right?
Yes, we've had ideas and we start filming it and I'm like, this is terrible, cut. We were going to do funny town names in Georgia and have the players read it, but my intention was international players to read it with accents. But I didn't get international. I was getting all American, so it wasn't funny. So we cut it out the third time. Like they're just saying Ludowicki and like funny names and Delaniga, and it was just like
Pushton. That'd be my favorite.
It was on there.
Pushton's got to be on there. But what was the one I saw the other day where they were interviewing the players and they had them put on the headphones and they had to guess the grunt of another player and try to figure stuff like that is fun, I think, for the fans, for the engagement. So that's kind of the stuff you get to do all the time.
Yeah, the week of the tournament I do, unless sometimes we'll have somebody come in early like John or Riley to promote the tournament a few months out to kind of build some excitement. But yeah, I get to try to work with the guys in ATP to sit down and do funny stuff. Like we did funny laws in Texas and Dallas. There's some insane laws from like the 1800s. Like you can't drink a beer standing up on a Sunday after 6. It's like really weird stuff. We'd have them read out on camera. That's a lot of fun.
I think there's some strange laws from the 1980s. So we don't have to go back that far for that.
Right.
No. Texas, because I had to take one religion class at TCU and I had to take Texas state history because of the uniqueness associated with Texas. Texas is the only state flag that can fly above the American flag. And that was done as a concession to get them to join the Union. So Texas had some power in the negotiating and they used it. So you will have some funky stuff on. I mean, literally back in 1986, when the drinking laws were changed, Texas waited to the absolute last day before they would allow. So I went 9 days, or I'm sorry, 1987, 9 days where I was not allowed to drink in a bar in Texas when I had been drinking since I was 17. So yeah, Texas is its own country. So yeah, that would probably be a pretty creative place, really, for you.
Yeah, they had some funny. We did funny town names and funny laws, and we give them a real one and a fake one, and they had to guess which was Texas. So that was
yeah, because you got a Paris, you got a Libya, you got all sorts of. You think you're international in Texas?
You have a Ding Dong, Texas, by the way.
You have a Wimberley, Texas, and I actually lived there.
Yeah,
Was it Wimbledon?
We did
So,
athletes' names in Atlanta, which were really funny. There's some funny ones out there as well. So it's kind of what things.
Cool. So what are the challenges? Because I remember back in the day, traditional media, the AJC looked at us and said, listen, if you're not going to sell me a newspaper,
right,
there's really not a lot of things I'm going to help you out with. Radio is so difficult because the demographic it's so small. How do you overcome the challenges of where do you say this is where we're going to concentrate outside of ALTA? But that comes with because it's the ALTA magazine isn't a weekly. If you're in the wrong cycle, it could be a month and a half old sitting there on the shelf.
Yeah, and even if we were on Roku TV every 3 seconds, you still find somebody who says, I didn't know you were happening, because it just happens. But I mean, every year you have to adjust, because especially with COVID, it changed media, paid media big time.
Mm-hmm.
People were at home more, they weren't in their cars as much. Digital, Roku, YouTube TV was exploding. So, digital is where it is, but you have to adjust it every year. And so it's like print media, obviously not so much. Social ads do great because you can really, pinpoint and fine tune the targeting a lot better there as far as most things, but digital really helps. So it's kind of just, every year seeing what works with everybody that does paid is what works and what didn't. You can adjust it as you're going along as well to put more money behind something working. Like for another client of mine, it was Roku or YouTube was doing really well and something else wasn't. So we just shifted. So, we're in USTA, Southern and Atlanta and ALTA, but you may not pick up your magazine in the mail. So that is the challenge, and then we do some community work, with clubs and things like that, but you just kind of have to evolve.
That's where Bobby always says you got to get on people's phones, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and the ticketing guys, they're constantly calling and doing the packages and reaching out to the organizations and that kind of thing. And for me, like around tournament time, it's just huge for the players to share and comment, which some are not great with, but back to Nick. Nick does a great job with that for us. It's huge for my numbers. I'm like, thank you. And Jack Sock's great about that. And, some of the players really help us out, which makes a big deal because they're like Nick's follower size is humongous.
Well, the good news is you mentioned his name, and his dad is involved in something very fun with Riley in Swing Vision. And, so that I think from a participatory standpoint, to have a court where people could see this, I think there'd be great interest in Atlanta. And as we're finding out, there is an explosion of virtual reality tennis going on.
Yes.
So I think that's another thing that we've spoken to 3 different companies so far, and they're all trying to figure out how they're going to unlock the key, and so I think that would be a blast just to have people with their headsets on, just spaced out, of course, so they're not whacking each other, but nonetheless, playing some virtual tennis, and these companies are all dying to get into it.
Yeah, I was just like, I want to get the players doing that because it's really funny to watch someone on the headset doing things.
Yeah.
And
they can't see themselves, so it's funny. You get to laugh at them while they got the goggles on. So.
Yes, exactly. That could be pretty good right there.
Especially you get this couple 7-footers out there. They're looking weird with a tennis racket to begin with. So and then you put virtual glasses on them, and obviously they're going to play. They're going to get down like they normally do because it's just instinctive at this point. So I think that would be some good television. So the challenge, and tell me if I'm wrong here, what kind of production facility, like if you had something incredible happen on a Tuesday night, how long does it take you, or do you have the means to turn it around and make that into a YouTube clip? 2 nights, the next day to get people, because I know the challenge has historically been, we're going to get you here one time when you're talking about the suburbs. How do we get you to come back? How do we get you to be part of the weekend crowd? Right.
So today I have great support there. I didn't have it in 2017. Like ATP Tennis TV, we're on WhatsApp. And I'm like, he just hit a tweener. That's amazing. I want it right now. I can get it within like 2 minutes and put it out on social. I didn't have that ability in 2017. I also have this amazing videographer, Drew, who does Wimbledon, Indian Wells, and he's always there. He's like my guy. And so he's clipping things. And in Dallas, we had President Bush show up and tap Riley on the head, and it was hilarious. I'm like, give me that right now. So now I have the ability to get things pretty quickly. Before I didn't. And there's a lot more I would like to do, but I'm just like heads down constantly during a tournament. So like asking people to help me.
If you need someone to be there the whole time and watch all the matches and just text you when something interesting happens, let me know. We can come up with somebody.
Like enjoy the air conditioned suite and the Kim Crawford line.
I will help.
Okay, I'll note that down. I have some friends that I've offered as well. So
now, Ashley, you're paying her. She's not even an intern anymore, right? Ashley, you're having to pay.
No, I just hook her up with, the access, and she does work for me. Yeah, she's hooked in now.
That's costing me money. She's not as flexible with drills as she used to be.
Just 2 weeks out of the year.
But like I said, it's fun that we're all in such a small community. We all are bouncing a bunch of things off of one another. Shaun, what do you want to hit her with? Oh, you've muted yourself again.
Muted myself again. I'm too good at that. I could go big. I could go with the big question.
Yeah, if you go big, I bet you it'll bring the
questions.
That's right. You have prep. Give her a big question.
I actually prepped and wrote answers.
Oh well, you got to give her a question that she has answers to.
Meaning what? Just like the who are you and what do we care? We figured that one out, right? What helps your business? Okay, we've talked about that. Basically, we all want Nick Kyrios tweeting about us, evidently. So we've covered a lot of that. Is there anything, Becky, we didn't cover that you wanted to share that kind of say, hey, this is what I'm doing? Anything coming up? Is there anything that didn't come up already before I go big with my favorite question?
Not really. I was going to talk about Atlanta Open. We go on sale next week with week long. So AtlantaOpenTennis.com. And volunteer registration opens next week as well. So if you want to support the tournament with your time, we always need those people. Can't think of anything else.
Well, we want to throw something out to you for next year, because this is one of my pet peeves that I'd love to have seen Atlanta get. Why don't we have an Atlanta Open Christmas party at a hotel, almost like we used to do with our fraternities? And you have a party where we put on some decent clothes. Again, the commonality is tennis. A reminder that this is coming. It's going to be an event. Put it on your calendar now and take advantage of it. It gives you extra play for the sponsors, and it just continues the process to make that event what it should be in this city. Let's put that. And I know the weather aside, it's always going to make it difficult. But I do think, in the power of the city, and as the nightlife matures, where I say our restaurants have gotten better, it's not Buckhead anymore. When I've transitioned out of my 30s, the 40s were a bit of a dull. It was a good time to get married. Now that I'm single again and in my 50s, I'm like, okay, I can see places to go, I wish it was there when I was in my 40s, because I could be able to stay up later now. But I see that, the maturation of the city would seemingly play well into this, getting this event more, and which brings up another side. The other side of it, what are you guys doing to get the crowd younger? Because that's a big challenge for tennis across the board.
Yeah, on my side of things, I've worked with some younger organizations like the Atlanta Professionals and, groups like that, especially from the social side. We've done some actually paid work with those kind of groups to kind of reach that audience. Again, that's where you can target the paid media for the younger spectrum. Like Instagram is younger than Facebook. And my audience there is, I say younger, I say 25 to 35, heavier male for us on Instagram. So, and then our crowd it depends, who it is, right? Our women's exhibition match can draw in a different crowd for us, which is always good. Last year we had Coco and Taylor Townsend. It was awesome. We've had Venus. So the player kind of matters a little bit, but the younger crowd is coming out because you got Atlantic Station with all the restaurants and bars right there at it. So that definitely helps. Definitely would like to get more of the young crowd out. Like I said, not even just a tennis player. They just want something fun to do. We've worked with that with kind of on the influencer side.
We need an influencer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of our tags is how to make tennis cool again. You know, the classic McEnroe as James Dean picture, you know, when he was the rebel without a cause, where tennis and the Agassi era where tennis was cool, you know, and that's trying to reshape it. Again, we talk about the athleticism involved in playing tennis today is so beyond what it was from the 70s. I mean, these guys are phenomenal tier 1 athletes. And unfortunately, with America being a little behind, it hasn't really grown in this country like you think it would, because it's a spectacular sport. I mean, as a skill sport, as I tell my students, guys, this is the most difficult skill sport there is. I mean, yeah, where you have to combine hand, eye, and foot. You know, I always say hitting a baseball is probably the hardest single thing to do in sports, but combination wise, tennis is right there with anything. So it's, you know.
Yeah, that's why I say, I mean, just even come out to qualifying, the skill set level is insane. And I love watching it. And the doubles matches are insane. And then you're going to go right down there and get autographs from the winners after every match at our tournament, which is an experience you don't get everywhere. So that's the benefit of being a little bit smaller, is that kind of more intimate experience.
So how do you, and this is the old NASCAR, as you brought it up again, I think NASCAR was built in a lot of ways with accessibility to the players, to the drivers. You know, you'd go to a booth and you'd get the autograph. And like you said, no matter what level, and I was amazed. We did as I said, with Talladega, with Hershey's back in the day. And I was amazed because I was not a NASCAR follower at the time. You would ask Terry Labonte, and they would, the fan of Terry Labonte would literally rattle off every sponsor that was on his car. And you'd be like, I mean, that's the kind of brand loyalty that any sport would die for. And that's where NASCAR cornered the market. And you know, there's plenty of theories out there of why tennis hasn't been able to accomplish it. And a lot of it, like you said, the players, they're not the most social. They, you know, a lot of them dropped out of school at a very young age. So, you know, there are challenges to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, even if I want to like do something special for Sam with Cadillac, I have to check. They have to check with their agents that this athlete can get in this car. You know, you have all those challenges as well. But if you throw something really fun for the guys, like we took JJ and Michael Moe to the Dallas Cowboy Stadium, they're like, we're in. Yeah. So it depends what you're throwing at them, right?
The Mercedes-Benz is a pretty nice stadium. We should be able to get somebody in there, right?
Yeah, we should. We should do that next. So they're easily will want to do that. Some of the things we ask them to do, they're like,
not today.
Yeah. Depends what it is.
Nothing like kudzu. Go to the Gorilla Atlanta Zoo. We have a great zoo. I love our zoo.
Well, so the challenge with these guys is practice schedules and match schedules, and so we try to get a lot at the beginning of the week before the main draw players are going, because some of them don't start playing until Wednesday, Thursday.
Right.
So we have to get everything kind of earlier in the week, and then, you know.
When do they historically get here for, if you, like you said, if they play a Tuesday, Wednesday match, when are they arriving in the city?
It's all over the place, but they're coming in the weekend before, like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, generally. I try to get them like Monday, Sunday, Monday. That's when most of them are for sure there and not too busy yet. I get my 15 minutes with them, not a minute over. That's
right. Somebody's on the clock.
Yes. And they usually come in sweating from practice or something, you know.
Where are they practicing now?
So, you know, we had 3 courts right there at the stadium.
Right.
Probably going to have to practice it at Georgia Tech because that lot was purchased.
And that's my last question then, Shaun. She's all yours. When are we going to move it to the North 400 corridor?
So I know everyone asked me about that. I'm like, I'm not involved with the location discussion, so I don't know.
I just like to throw it out there to see if anybody's listening.
So look, I'll get Peter on here soon, and
please. This is, I know Peter, but just curiosity, Peter. Why are we not? I mean, the Olympics killed us. We understand that by putting it in Stone Mountain. Could we reverse history and put something up here?
Right.
That's all right, Shaun. She's all yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, Becky, first of all, thank you so much. It's been fun for me to get to know you, and then hearing you and Bobby go back and forth is fun because I know you guys know each other well, and learning and talking with an expert in what you do and as connected as you can be in doing what you do, we get to learn a lot. And I made a comment the other day that at some point I looked at my wife and I said, at some point, if this plays out in the right direction, is this going to make me the Joe Rogan of tennis? And it wasn't me comparing myself to Joe Rogan. It was the concept. It is, if we can talk to all of the experts, at some point we get all the expert information that no one else has been able to compile. And that's one of the things Go Tennis wants to do as well, is that compilation of information, especially Atlanta specific, not trying to take over the world, not trying to make it too big, one calendar, one place, everything right there, making it simple and making it in one easily navigated system, as opposed to everything else going on out there. And you get that concept with the scheduling that you've got to do in your job, but also finding time to play tennis for yourself and being able to get out there and play and get yourself on the court. And so I always ask at the end, and I love this question because it gets not only that expertise and that personal point of view into it, but also everything that you do and everything that we've talked about usually feeds into the answer that we get. But if you were queen of tennis for a day or a month or a year, or however long it took, you were queen of tennis and you could change or improve anything about tennis, whether it's Atlanta specific, United States, globally, is there anything you would change?
Good question. And I saw that on my cheat sheet and I thought about it. So there's two answers. One is like for me as a player versus me as a marketer. And I already said this, can we not have Easter, ALTA matches and spring break? Can we alter that schedule a little bit? But that's just as a captain speaking. I mean, professionally, I couldn't really think of anything. Kind of two-part. Like one, I'd love to see American win a Grand Slam. I mean, that's just kind of like as a fan, that's coming up, happening. We've got, like Bobby said, there's so many ones that are just like on it's so close to doing that. And just really for our US fans to really appreciate our American players. I mean, it's fine to be a big fan of an international player. I get it. But really appreciating them and supporting our players here in the US, I think could be better, just for me. But I'm a big fan of pushing the American players as an American tournament. So that's from my perspective. But we also we love to give love to our international players that come. We get a lot of Australian players and Asian players as well. So it's just great to see good tennis and meet good people and good players overall.
Well, I think it's a great point. I mean, we're coming out of a pandemic where the safest place to be outside was a tennis court. And we do have an obesity issue in this country. And what a great way. Atlanta's proven it can be social, it can be exercise, it can fill a lot, check a lot of boxes. And I think what you're saying, just a more successful American at this point really could be the differentiator and put us over the top and bring tennis back to where it was during the Connors and McEnroe years and the Agassi years. I mean, so we are close. And I think hopefully societal wise, it'll be a tremendous benefit from health perspective and just keeping people social, keeping people involved with each other's lives. That's what makes Atlanta fun. That's what makes ALTA. Everybody always wants to know, how does ALTA? Well, first, it took a long time. It wasn't an overnight thing. We just happened at, we spoke with Billy Pate yesterday, who's the head tennis coach at Princeton. And he came, I met him in grad school down here. And, we were here in the 90s where that was the perfect storm of tennis in Atlanta. The 20-year buildup of Atlanta now meets the Olympics coming, a tennis event and everything, ALTA, and boom. And it was all consuming. I mean, to the point where developers made subdivisions with at least 2 courts that were lighted and ALTA approved and a bathroom. That culturally, tennis has a huge impact on this city. It's amazing, really. And I'd love, like you said, love to see it go other places. Love to see it go beyond Dallas. Charlotte is doing some incredible things. There's a lot of stuff that it bodes well for the sport. And we just got to be a little patient. But we appreciate what you're doing to get the word out there. That's what we need.
Thank you. It's a great job because I love what I do. So I feel very lucky for that. And so, I put a lot of thought into it, but I'm just grinning while I'm doing it as well. So feel fortunate.
And it's fun to see you with a different hat on, because again, we're not this mature on Tuesday night, Shaun. None of us are. And like I said, if there's ever a night I might say something that it's because of them. So I enjoy that, because that's, we know we do it 16 weeks out of the year, and we look forward to this. Like anybody else, no, Tuesday is gone. Don't even
Yeah,
ask.
totally different. But I'm
that-
fortunate. My tournament directors know my personality, and they let me basically run free. But every now and then I bring up an idea, and they're like, Peter's like, Becky, or Eddie will be like, I always say yes, but but I've been lucky because they basically trust me to do what I want to do, and they don't.
As they should.
And trust is earned, so that means you've earned it, and that's a good thing. And we would like to, as Go Tennis ambassadors and with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast as well, to just say, hey, if we can ever be a part of anything, if you ever need anything from us, we are looking at embedding ourselves, so to speak, into the tennis world to be able to take everything together and be able to give everybody more than what they thought they could have, without picking any fights. We're making friends with everybody and really trying to bring everybody and say, hey, here's an expert here, here's an expert there, and also here's something interesting. And so if we get a chance to share some of that with you, Bobby and I, I'm sure we're running through ideas for Go Tennis, for the podcast, for everything going on for the YouTube channel, to be able to help with the Open and everything else that is going on. We definitely want to be a part of it. And we definitely appreciate your time here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and look forward to seeing where you guys go. And I'm talking to Bobby with getting this out there. So best of luck, and keep in touch.
Thank you. Have a good spring break.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
All right, bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.